Hey guys, welcome back. Last week I decided to build a new fleet to replace some existing game pieces for the board game Eclipse Second Dawn. And much discussion and debate with my friend, we settled on the idea of Battlestar Galactica as a great theme. And so the first ship we did was the Interceptor and replaced that with the Viper, and that came out really well. Second ship we're jumping into now is the Cruiser. Anyway, it's a fun ship. I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's get started.
Well, those familiar with Battlestar Galactica, you'll know this ship as the Janus class heavy cruiser from Deadlock. I've chosen this to be the cruiser class for the Eclipse game, and I think just overall it's a very cool looking ship. There's a lot of nice shapes, and the way the hull kind of reads. It's got this nice little point. It's got a unique kind of look to it, something a little bit more different than some of the other ships in Battlestar Galactica. So I feel like it's going to make for a good ship visually speaking that's a bit more unique to some of the previous ships that are out there. But one thing I will say off the bat with this particular ship, and I don't know if it's just me, but personally I think I'm going to have some issues with some of the overall busyness of the ship. Just looking at it, there's a lot of things going on, and it's very hard to sort of pinpoint where to look. And so when you sort of see it this close, it just visually doesn't quite read. But then when you sort of see it further away, things begin to sort of make sense. You get this nice distinct silhouette. And I think this is what I'm sort of drawn to. So I think when it comes to the sort of finer details, we're definitely going to try and scale this back and simplify a lot of this, just because overall, as I said, it's just too busy. But I think we can make some improvements upon this. But yeah, I think it's an overall really cool looking ship. So let's get started. Alrighty. So I think we're kind of in a pretty good place for the overall body shape. Now is probably the time to start detailing some of the bigger, broader details, just to kind of add elements in there that's going to give us the necessary detail. So one thing, I guess, to kind of cover here is some of the elements that I'm referring to. Is we've got our kind of, you can't see it too well from this top view, but this sort of top section here, it's definitely raised on the 3/4 sort of shot. So there's definitely an element here that we should include. Again, I'm ignoring the panel detail. We'll have a lighter version pass across this once we kind of get some of these other elements in there. But yeah, some of these bigger panel details, these are good to kind of start thinking about it, like this sort of line section through here. And then just to quickly cast across the arrows at the back here. So we've got like this detailed rib section. I don't know if the rib section should go across all the way through here. This just feels a bit strange. Like, I think if you could leave it localized to one element, I think it works. But going right across the back here, the whole, I don't know if it just feels that right. It feels a bit strange. So I think, even this here, so from the top view, this rib section kind of continues across almost like it's a mistake. on the side section, none of that rib section, it kind of terminates over here. It might continue at the top here, but it seems to sort of terminate down the bottom here. So I feel like that's a nicer way to go with this. So we'll keep these ribbed elements a little bit more to this sort of middle to back section, and we'll sort of simplify some detail. It definitely will kind of include this detail at the bottom here. It's a fairly simple, easy detail to repeat. We'll get that going. I love this panel detail, probably just going to ignore. We might get some very small minor ones, but we'll get into kind of like bigger shapes. Again, a little bit of exposed element here, kind of reminds me of the Viper a little bit with some of the engine exposed elements. So another opportunity to kind of add some little details and opportunities to sort of spice it up a little. Back here, again, just the panel details. I just find this stuff very busy. So I might even just deviate away from a little bit of the paneling detail and just find something that makes sense to me, feels more logical, and just sort of makes it easier on the eyes, when you read this. Cool. Alrighty. I think let's keep going. Okay, so I'm going to go back to a good old. Actually, I won't do that. I'll just grab this box over here, pull it up here, and let's just start again blocking out some of the details that I think we are missing. That'll help sort of shape and inform some of the details that fall around it. Going to keep that a bit simple for now until we kind of get the rest of those elements in there. Okay, we're starting to get some of those distinct shapes. So now we just need to refine them and get us a little bit of detail in there.
Okay, so here we are. We're back in the final, I guess, details of the ship here. There's a couple more things to do, like just some of the various details on the inserts here. I think we might even generate a stand for underneath it, just so it kind of sits a bit more, taller and proud off the board itself. But the last detail that I kind of really need to sort of finish off and just think through is just the way the engines are going to connect here at the back here. Let me just turn off my shadows here, just so we can kind of see what we're working through. But to kind of indicate what I'm referring to. So within their design, they've got this almost looks like a bit of a coil system with some sort of tubing and piping. In all honesty, I'm just not a fan of the way this reads. I feel like it's a part of the design of the ship that doesn't feel like it belongs. It feels a little bit out of place. And obviously it's, between the engines, so it has some sort of protection if I'm imagining this to be in some sort of combat. But I think it's an area that I don't really want to kind of follow along with this. I think we can kind of do something a little bit cleaner and more simple, but give it a strong feel. So I think we're going to have to, try something here and run a couple of experiments and see if we can get a better looking design for just the back here. I just not a fan of the way this reads, and I think we can improve it. So let's get cracking. What we're doing realistically is finding lines that basically inspire the next element. It's these lines that kind of give us these shapes and angles that correspond to the existing sort of other shapes. So in this particular case, we kind of like want to work with a horizontal ship there. So I thought bringing that up might give it like a cleaner sort of look rather than just a simple X, which I think that's kind of working now. We haven't put like a tremendous amount of detail on this, but I think this is kind of giving us something kind of interesting to work with. So really, it's a part of just experimenting and seeing what sticks. Even this point here, let's bring it back. This is not too bad, and then I think we can throw some tubing in here, just for sort of some simple points of interest, but nothing complicated. So just to kind of break up just the sort of paneling detail, that might work quite well. Let's also add, while we're here, actually no, I'll do that at the end. I'm going to add some panel details in here. Let's just keep going with the tubing, and we'll add in some nice shapes. Okay, tubing. So go to our splines, and I want to have tubing that kind of runs over here. Comes up here, and then let's try it here. We're going to do one at the bottom here as well, but we'll do that in a different manner. Let's just do the first one. All right, turn on our viewport rendering so we can see what it is. Let's drop down our sides. It does not need to be that high res for a small miniature print this big. All right, let's add on some thickness. Okay, let's pull it down into place. I kind of almost want it intersecting with it. And then this can also kind of come down. Yep, and this just sort of matches some of the flow of the lines that we're working with. Okay, so to have this make a little bit more sense. We really just need to kind of give it some sort of connection here at the end. So we won't forget that, but we will come back to that a little bit after. And then let's try another tube where we pull down the, copy this time when you don't want an instance because we're going to change the shape. And this can have some other kind of points of interest. So let's refine the shape here. So we want to redirect it so that it kind of coming from a similar sort of housing point. So even this here, this can come out. And then we can go ahead and delete this. And delete the other one as well. And then we can just stick with the tube here. Okay, so let's go to our left view. And we want to make this a bit more square, just so it's... And for this one, I think I'm going to even bump up its overall thickness just to make it feel a little bit bigger and more interesting. Cool, that's fine. Totally intersecting kind of makes it a bit stronger when we 3D print this. Oh, the top view, let's fix that up. So we want that to be square. So this probably just needs to come over. Okay, I think that is not too bad. You know, I'm not throwing away the design completely. We're kind of including some of these tubings and things. I just didn't, the coils at the back there, I just didn't like the way that was behaving and reading. So felt like that was an opportunity to make it look better. Awesome. So I think that's looking pretty good. Let's probably start attaching it back into the main object here. And then we can kind of see it all the way across. So this is cool. We're realizing now that we've got to account for that sort of big gap in the back there. But yeah, overall connections, I think they're working really well. Cool, like all those updates there, if I just turn off the set poly, so like you can always revert back to something, you know, if we went too far. That's why it's beneficial sometimes to include these, because it's like, oh, I might want to copy this and make an adjustment to it. But in this particular case, I'm pretty happy with the way this is reading, so I'm just going to continue to work with it. So from the bottom here, I'm going to extend this across, just so it kind of goes right into the actual body there. I don't know if we need to kind of do anything much down the bottom here again, because we're not really going to see it. I think we can kind of leave that out for us, save us some time. I think we're in a pretty good place. Maybe what we need to do now is just include a little bit of some of the greebly detail. Nothing much of crazy, but let's change our color back to kind of a gray color, just to sort of see how it feels, if it's feeling cohesive with the rest of the ship, or do we need to make further adjustments. So let's turn on our shadows, because this will, I mean, obviously it's not real world shadows, but it's going to give us a rough indicator about how that's behaving, which isn't too shabby. So that is not too bad. So we'll do some housing here at the back and at the front over here. But I think we're okay, and maybe the last thing that we need to do is some minor paneling detail, but that can be treated very, you know, some simple ways of doing this. Okay, as for the housing, let's just do this quickly. Housing doesn't have to be anything complicated, just a simple box is honestly more than enough for this. It just kind of, it gives us like a connection point. Like think of it as a tree that you've built into a scene. You know, you just have a trunk like sticking up out of nowhere. It looks a bit strange because there's no connection between that and the base. This is no different, right? You know, you kind of want to have where that root system begins and connects to the ground. And this here is just giving us a very kind of simple connection, just for a little bit of interest. Let's go to the back view. You can see if I just want to bring it down there. And let's chamfer these edges. Doesn't really need to be more than that. That's probably good enough. One last detail, just to pull this back a tad. And the same thing with this one, just a little bit further back. Okay. Excellent. Alrighty. I think that's looking pretty reasonable. Just the last couple more details to do, then we are in a pretty good position to start printing. So here we are at our final detailed model pass. I've ended up adding in the little base just to make it feel like there's an option there to kind of have it, you know, not sort of nose diving like this if it's sort of on the ground, but a base kind of gives it raised off the ground. Could be, you know, make a nice little bit of interest and detail. I don't know if I'll use it in the end. We'll print it out, we'll test it and try it, and we'll just sort of, I guess, allow the player to decide whether they want to use it. I've got some kind of greebly detail in there, probably a little bit small. Don't know if it's going to be seen or necessary, but again, I think we're going to get some nice results. In the end, I've decided to sort of separate them out just because it's going to be easier to print this way, because I have done a batch right now where it was kind of just like one single ship connected, and I ended up sort of finding that it was better just to sort of separate and kind of preserve some of the detail. So yeah, I think we're in a good place, and let's have a look at the final print results.
Alrighty, let's have a little look at what we've got here. Looks like some of the details came in pretty well. Nothing seems to be broken, which is always a good sign. And we were using the light support, so that's a good thing. We definitely got some comparisons to make between the ones that were printed up on the ends versus the ones that was printed at the back here, which I can already tell there's the connection point with the booster there to the bottom. It's just going to be a lot to kind of remove and kind of keep it clean. So I think making the decision to kind of flip it, put it on the head, might have been the best one after all. Have our support structures there. I was intending to use a filament printer for that, but I think for now let's just continue as it is, and we'll, if we have to make adjustments, we can further assess once we get some grey primer onto it, just so we can kind of see the details being a little bit better recessed, because unfortunately with this kind of colour, it just makes it a bit of a challenge to try and read it all clearly, but anyway, there should be enough there to make this work. Alrighty guys, so here is our print, and I think we have some really nice results. This happened to be actually the second print that I ended up doing, purely because unfortunately the first one was just a bit too big. It was sort of getting into kind of like the class of the Dreadnought, according to the game. So I just felt like, let's just shrink this one down. Unfortunately, this was one of the prints that basically where I had the supports right at the bottom, so it kind of melted the back of the engines, which I kind of thought it would, so we definitely sort of avoided that technique. And we end up sort of going with the technique where it was sort of split into two, just to kind of capture all the detail and make it nice and interesting. But yeah, unfortunately that one was too big. But yeah, we settled on a smaller scale that I think is appropriate for the the cruiser size. And yeah, we have the rest of them here, so I think they kind of came out really well. We'll definitely have to be getting some paint onto these at some point soon and start to kind of detail them up a little bit. But yeah, I think they kind of came out really well. Have a little flip on the bottom side. You can see that all the details kind of captured really well. And the other one, we've got the little holes in here, so we definitely got the stand working really well, which I think works awesome. Kind of gives the ship this sort of proud look, sort of just slightly raised off, not too high off the board like so, but something a bit more kind of close to the board, but just sort of makes it feel a bit more prouder in the way it reads. I think that came out really well, so definitely happy with that result. But again, we just need to get some paint on these bad boys, and I think we're ready to play. Well guys, we've done it. The cruiser is now complete with our Janus replacement, and now it's time to move on to the Dreadnought class. So I've been looking forward to this ship, but if you guys have any ideas or suggestions about what you think would be a great Battlestar Galactica replacement for the Dreadnought, please let me know in the comments. Also guys, if you're interested in printing and downloading these ships and miniatures for yourself, I've got it all set up on my Patreon, so definitely head over to there. You can download the miniatures. Any support that you provide will be greatly appreciated. Alright guys, until next time.